people were driven by my words and my actions, and I could lead by example.
You showed me that picture with Arnold, and you're extremely strong.
I have people at work telling me all the time, I want to be successful like you are. You inspire me. I had some mentors who meant a lot to me. I took advantage of it, right? I did everything I possibly could. I don't want to disappoint anybody, especially myself, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. You want to do all the things you want to do, and it goes deeper. I can't want it more than you want it. If you knew better, you do better. Dream bigger.
Try, give it a try. Just being focused on what you have to do. I work my butt off so that I can do the things that I enjoy. If you want something, go get it.
You beat cancer.
So I went to the dermatologist and they did a biopsy. And about 4 or 5 days after the biopsy, I got a phone call.
Welcome to this episode of Beast vs. Zombie. Today I have a really special guest with me, Mr. Dana Bartholomew. Him and I, actually, the way we met because I go to the gym every morning at 5 a.m. So he's already beaten me to the gym every morning. And, that's how we got together. Thank you so much for taking your time to be on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure to be here.
We're going to get started here. The first question I want to ask you is, what type of advice would you give to somebody that's going through any kind of challenge in their lives?
Well, just keep pushing through. I've gone through challenges in my life. I'm fortunate that I'm pretty driven. Always have been. But I'm dealing with things with my daughter right now and trying to motivate her and trying to teach her how to push through. The world's a tough place right now. So just got to keep driving.
Right. The world is very interesting right now.
Yeah.
And, as you get older, right, it doesn't ever get easier. You just kind of you get smarter, right? You get better. I've never known what I've known now, right? And that's the same for you.
You hope to.
Right. And, right, I hope you learn as you can continue to get older. And so, yeah, challenges with the youth is different for me, right? Like, obviously, you're older than me, and even I feel a lot of disconnect. Like, for me, like, I have my nephew is 19 right now. I live with my nephew. He's 19, and I live with him and his grandparents, and we have, right? It's a lot of challenges. I think this is my first experience. Like, watching someone, I've seen him since he was a child and grow up. Now he's 19. Now he's about to go to college. Shout out to Caden. He just committed to his college. And, it is a lot of challenges, a lot of differences, right? There's terms and slangs and words that they're not saying anymore. I know for you, one thing that you try to do is somewhat like impact the youth, and you felt a disconnect there. What kind of challenges or what kind of things why do you think that's happening?
Well, I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different world. I live in a corporate environment at work now. I felt like back in the day I could mentor and teach young people, and I had a following, and people were driven by my words and my actions, and I could lead by example, and they'd follow me. It wasn't a struggle. It was relatively easy, and I think part of it is I had a really, really good team around me, but I just kind of led by example, and it worked. But now I can't use the same strategies that I used to in the corporate environment. I can't say the same things. I can't do the same things. And so I have a really, really hard time reaching. I don't know how to motivate the young people today, and it's a struggle for me. Right, I do my best. I've tried to change. Right, I've had to become a different person than I was, 25, 30 years ago when I managed, people my age. Because now I'm managing people that are younger than me, and so there's that cultural disconnect, I think, inherently with the younger people. And man, I've tried different things, and I guess I'm successful to a certain degree, but not as successful as I'd like to be. Right, I'd like to help more. I just don't seem to be able to get through like I used to.
Yeah. And I mean, and part of that is just like, I assume you hold yourself to a certain standard. So that's like, I'm sure a lot of people would agree that like you're pretty
Well,
successful.
yeah, and that's something. Yeah, it is different, right? But I was young once too, right? I faced those challenges, and so it feels to me like the people that I speak to, if they want to, I have people at work telling me all the time, I want what you have. I want to be successful like you are now, right? And I'm like, okay, follow what I do, right? I got a guy at work that I give advice to all the time, and I said, look, do you trust me? Do you trust that I'm giving you good advice? And he's like, yeah. I said, then why don't you listen to me, right? So that's the frustrating part, right?
Right.
I'm laying it all out there. All I have to do is follow their advice, right? When I was younger, I had some mentors who meant a lot to me that changed my life, absolutely changed my life. I had a guy who was a banker friend who got me into saving money. Well, I had never saved money before. I didn't have money to save. He convinced me to buy life insurance at a time that I'm like, why would I need life insurance? But now I've got this policy that I bought 30 some years ago that has value to it. And it's part of my retirement plan now. And because I listened to him. So I've had some really good breaks. I've had some awesome opportunities placed in front of me, but I think those opportunities came because I worked hard. And when the opportunity came up, I took advantage of it, right? I did everything I possibly could. And if I wanted things, I set my mind to go get them, right? So whether it was, I want that truck, or I want that car, or I want to be able to do this, I just said, I'm going to do that, whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes.
And so it seems like people want things, but they're not willing to go after it. And you read stuff on social media about how people, if you want something, go get it. And if you're not willing to go get it, then you're not going to get it, right? But it just doesn't seem to click. So
I agree. It's like to say and not to do, or like to say I know, but like not to do it is really like not knowing that you, right? I always like, I always refer to a lot of like music and like specifically I listen to a lot of hip hop and R&B, but like Fabulous always said, if you knew better, you do better, right? And I'm like you said, like it just seems like people that like you lead by example, so it's pretty straightforward, right? And I feel like first of all, like listening is a really big skill that like not everybody has, right? Like even when we're in the gym, right? Like you tell me some things, like I just listen and just take that for what it is, right? You've been around longer, you have more experience than I do. It would be like, it would not make sense for me to not give it a try, at least like give it a try, like try to see what would happen if I simply just did what you told me to do, right? And see how that worked out, see what type of results that got, right? And if you have some type of results, which I've seen some pictures of you before, if you have some type of results that like I want, right? And I don't have those results, so you probably know, you're probably the master there, right? And I feel like mentorship as a whole is kind of like a lost cause, it's like a dying thing. Like people do not really understand, right? Like I mean, like even if you look at like older trades like plumbers, electricians, right? Like they have like apprenticeships, right? Even like doctors now, they go through like a residency somewhat, right? Like those are places where you have mentors, you're learning from somebody that's already done what you've done, to not only to like speed up the process so you're not making the same mistakes that somebody else has already made, because like a lot of the things that people are doing, like it's already been done. Right? Like
in most cases, yes, sir.
Right? Like you want to make $1 million, right? I guarantee there's a whole bunch of people out there that have made $1 million, and they say there's a million ways to make $1 million, right? But if you haven't gotten those results, like you don't know how, right? Like you are actually like uneducated in that aspect, right? And you should be able to be aware enough that you have got to change something in order to get a different result than what you've been getting, right? And so, yeah, that's tough.
So I see this in all kinds of industries, right? At my job, we see a lot of talented, skilled workers that are at retirement age. They're moving on. And in the past, those skills were handed down from generation to generation, and the next group of people came up. There seems to be some watering down of that skill, right? And it's a problem in every industry that we see, right? People just aren't going after the trades. They're not doing that. People want the easy way, right? I just want money, but I don't necessarily want to work for it or get a real job or go study as an intern or do an apprenticeship of some sort, right? Or go to a trade school. And I really see that affecting, everything that we do at work and in other industries as well. So you're right about that. People aren't trying to follow the footsteps of other people with skills.
Right.
So
and that's
tough.
That's like inherently like how you learn to do anything. And that also like fast tracks, like if I learn from somebody else's mistakes, then I don't have to make those same mistakes. I mean, some stuff like when I was a little kid, right, my dad would tell me like, hey, it's going to happen like this, this, and this. I'm like, it can't happen to me. And then it happens like this, this, and this. So then at some point you should probably just listen and do so that like you don't make those same mistakes. I mean, some stuff like you learn on your own, which is fine. But I mean, after you learn on your own so many times, it's like, man, I think you would make a change and try to learn. And it's also harder. Like, I feel like it's such a sensitive time, right? Like you were saying, like just push through, right? And then how you communicate how to just push through, right? Even before we were starting this episode today, we were talking about like, just like how we're speaking to each other, right? Like, and how sensitive that is, opposed to, like you were saying, like how you've had to adjust a lot about how you go about leading people in such a sensitive and like fully transparent and world where everything is visible and everything is like nitpicked and people's feelings get hurt, and there's like there's different propaganda in the world of what is defined as like being a man or being successful,
right?
And so all of that makes the world a different place opposed to when I was little, like I grew up, I'm in like 3rd, 4th grade, my basketball coach is yelling at me, right? to get me to do what we need to do. And that was totally fine. That's a big part of like who I am, is like I can take feedback under like tremendous pressure and apply that. Right. And that wasn't a problem then. If you see
It's a problem now.
If you see a coach right now yelling at a bunch of 3rd and 4th graders, it might be a problem. It's posted on social media and it's this huge deal. Like, he's traumatizing the kids, and it's not. He's just he's actually trying his absolute hardest to help these kids do what they need to do to try and help them be successful.
Well, as I say all the time, I've got a good friend at work who's a really solid person. I respect him a lot. And we talk about how we're really grounded people, he and I, right? And we both struggle right now, right? The world is just tough. I mean, financially, motivationally, trying to get the young people to listen and to learn. It's just difficult. And so if it's hard for someone like me, who I think has his shit together, for anybody that's dealing with more problems than I'm dealing with, it's even a bigger struggle, right? So how do you help those people, right? It has to come within, right? It has to come from within. And, I don't know how you reach into somebody and pull that from within, right? And it seems like my words these days don't carry the same weight they once did. Now, is that because I've changed, or is it because the new generation doesn't listen? Like you said, your coach yelled at you when you were in 3rd or 4th grade, right? Well, I used to yell at my employees, right? And they seemed to listen. And I get emails and I get text messages from old employees from years and years ago, some who've gone on to start their own business and been really successful. And they thank me for what they learned under my tutelage, right? And I couldn't do the things I did to teach them. I couldn't do that in today's corporate environment. It just wouldn't work. It wouldn't fly. So I've tried to change, to follow suit with that. But it doesn't seem as successful. So maybe I've got to try other things. I don't know. I'm doing the best I can. right? And it's just really, really frustrating because if you've been really good at something for a long, long time and then suddenly you're not good at it anymore, like doing incline bench, for example, it sucks. It's frustrating. And you just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and deal with the frustration sometimes.
Right. And it's hard, like you said, like, right, like I can give you all the resources, the tools, but like I can't want it more than you want it, right? And it like it has to be in you. And sometimes it kind of is like you either got it or you don't. Like I like that saying a little bit because it's like for me, the bare minimum is to like work as hard as you can to try your absolute hardest. And that's not everybody's kind of.
It's a small percentage.
That's a small percentage of people. And I feel like, at least when I was growing up, like that was pretty much the norm. Like
there's probably more zombies than beasts now.
Right. Yes, so, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, and that's why that's kind of like my standard for the friends that I have in my life. The like my girlfriend, right? The people that I have relationships with, right? Like, I mean, you and I, we motivate each other, like you said, by leading by example, just showing up at 5 a.m. every day, right? Like, I'm just trying my hardest. Right. I'm just showing up. The least I could do is just show up. Maybe a lot of times I'm tired. It's 5 in the morning, right? So maybe I was up too late. Maybe it's been a long week. I don't know, right? But I know you're going to be there. So if I don't show up, then I'm going to get a text message or something like, dude, where you been?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's just us as men or as people, however you want to say it, just trying our absolute hardest, leading by example and, right, like inspiring each other to do their absolute best.
Mike and I, my workout partner, we met a couple years ago doing leg day. We fell on the same day and we just started talking and we started working out together. Now he and I are there, you see us there every day. And we've probably had half a dozen to 10, young guys come up to us and say, man, you inspire me. You guys are here every day. And so sometimes I wake up and like, oh man, I don't feel like going to the gym. I'm like, well, if those guys can do it, then I've got to get up and do it. Right. So that's been an inspiration for me too, right? Because it's like, okay, if we're doing some good here, right? By us showing up every day. And now I feel guilty if I feel like not going, right? There's no way I'm not going to the gym now because people will question, how come I'm not there? Right. Now, if I'm out of town or I'm not feeling well or something, that's a different story. But if everything's good, Mike and I are there every day, Monday through Friday. Then I went to the gym yesterday, did a little extracurricular workout. So it's been really cool to have those people, recognize the fact that we're there, and we're probably quite a bit older than most of those people that have come up to us and talked to us. And people ask what kind of exercises we do and things like that, which is also important because it's a different feel in the gym these days. When I started working out, it was weight training, right? Bench, squat, whatever. That was it, right? Now you got all these different machines and you've got the CrossFit and you've got all these other exercises that you see young people doing, right? Which I commend them for. Most of them I couldn't do. But I think there's something to be said for the old traditional stuff too, right? If you want to build muscle, if you want to work out hard, those are the things that I've tried, different exercises through the years. And so I know what works for me. So may not work for the next person, but like you said earlier, try, give it a try. So, I'm going to give that a shot and see how that feels or see what that does for me, whether it's a different exercise or whether it's a different attitude or perception of what you're doing or just motivation, right? Just, I'm going to get up and do this every day for a while and see what happens. I don't think people don't do that as much as everybody would like them to, I think.
Right. Like you have to be open-minded. Like you have to be open-minded because you don't know what you don't know. Even at wherever place you are in life, however old you are, you're never going to know it all. Right. And you, again, like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And one thing could literally flip everything that you know upside down. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow, a whole new world is unlocked. And you had to be open-minded and willing to learn and change and try something new in order to find that out for yourself. And if you don't, then you're doing the same thing, you're getting the same results, and you're kind of like in this bubble. And that's not like how in my opinion, like life is supposed to be. Like it's supposed to be continuously growing and continuously expanding, continuously leveling up, right? You should continuously, right? What they say, like get 1% better every day, right? And in order to do that, you have to be open-minded and be able to learn and listen. Like I said, listening is a skill.
So, you and I are sitting here talking, and we have similar outlooks and similar work ethics and stuff, right? So I'd like to know what the people who just don't, I don't know if they don't believe in what you and I believe in, or they're just not willing to put in that effort, or they think, no, I don't need to do that. Something else will make me rich or whatever. I don't know, right? Because it's one thing for you and I to sit and talk about it. It makes sense to both of us.
Right.
But what about the people that doesn't make sense to? I'd like to know, how do you affect their behavior?
Right.
How do you make them do what, you and I have been talking about?
Right.
Pushing forward, driving through. I don't know. I've been trying, and my words that used to work just don't work.
Right.
So leading by example doesn't necessarily do it. Rah cheerleader doesn't seem to do it. Yelling at people and being angry doesn't seem to do it. So I think it comes to, it has to come from within. They have to want to do things. And I'm not saying that everybody in the younger generation is like that, right? There's some young people who are super, super driven that I'm amazed at, their capabilities and what they do and the drive they have. But I think in general terms, my grandfather used to look down on my generation, right? And so I don't know if it's just generational gap in some instances, where I'm just like, oh, well, my grandpa felt that way about me. I feel that way about the younger generation. But it seems to go deeper than that. It's not just generational gap, right? I think it's the world has changed so much from when I was young to now, right? With social media, like you said, everything's out there. The world is difficult right now. Unemployment's high. Finding good jobs is tough. It's just a real struggle for people.
Yeah, I think technology has sped everything up a lot faster than anybody could ever imagine. But I still think it's like an inherently like uneducation of who you are as like a person and like how a person works, right? Like education, the word education, it comes from like, I think the origin is like educo. It means to learn from within or something like that, right? And so it's really at the inherent base, like learning about who you are and how you function and how you grow as a person. And that's why I always tell people, like, you should always travel. You should get out of, right, the States, out of America, out of your bubble, and get different perspectives on other people to get a better understanding of who you are, why you do the things that you do. That's also why I always encourage, and there's books on like understanding like why you do things, like what your passion is, right? Like who you are and what really drives you, right? When you can inherently understand what drives you and the reason why you do things, then it's like, okay, well, if you have a big enough why or a strong enough why to do whatever you want to do, and you understand the reason why you're doing things, then that should outweigh any excuses of I don't want to do it, or I don't want to try hard, or I'm too tired today, whatever that is, because you have such a great understanding of who you are and why you do things. And I think some of that is like people don't ask those questions to themselves. Is like, why am I waking up every day and going to this job, right? Like, what is my actual purpose? What is the purpose of this job? Where am I actually trying to get? Or maybe, right, like they don't even think about where that job might lead them, or on a bigger picture, like what they are actually capable of, right? Like we are human beings, right? And like we are capable of so much. And you're only capable of like what you believe you're capable to do, right? And so if I'm a person and I don't really believe I'm capable of a lot, then you probably won't do much. And so like I always encourage people to dream bigger, to believe in themselves, to have superior confidence in themselves. And that's not always the case for whatever reason. And that, like I said, that's like being uneducated about yourself, because you're a human being, right? We are all capable. We are 100%. Like we are capable of great things, right? And it's been shown throughout history, and it's not a secret. And you see people that have the worst circumstances in the world do some of the most amazing things. And then you see some of the people with most resources, the most education, like at college, and they fail, and they do a horrible job, and so there is no excuse, right? Like I said, we are in a world of so much technology and so much transparency and the internet, that we have all the resources, we have all the information, we have all the scientific research in order to understand like what is going on. It's almost like a bad thing that we have so much. It's almost like sometimes that saying like ignorance is bliss. It's like if you didn't know all of these things, would you try or not try this hard, right? Yeah. And so that's almost a part of it too.
I think, you talked about all the positive things with technology and the internet, and you have all the access to that. But I think along with it, there's a lot of negativity too. So I think that kind of offsets it, right? So it's you as a human being figuring out how you sift through that and take the positive things, right? Now, you asked me about what's my why, right? So why do I do this? Why do I work out? Why do I go to work every day? And I think maybe when I was younger, that was an easier question to answer, because I really struggled with how to answer that question, like why? And so I thought about it. I said, I tell my daughter, I can't say I don't like going to work, because I like my job. But I'd rather not go to work. I'd rather, I love my weekends, but I go and I work my butt off so that I can do the things that I enjoy, right? Now, I enjoy work, so I'm fortunate that way. But I really go every single day, bust your butt, for a paycheck at the end of the day. So, a weekend comes up or a holiday or something, you can go do the things you like to do. You get home, you can know you did a good job, you're productive, and you can enjoy life, right? So I guess my why now is just to enjoy the time that I'm not at work, Why do I work out? That was another question. It's like, I started working out when I was 20 years old. I was tall and skinny my whole life, and I just decided I had enough of it, right? I wanted to start working out, and it was difficult at first, right? But then it's just complete habit now, right? I have to go to the gym. I talked to a guy at the gym on Friday who goes 7 days a week, and like he says, if I don't go to the gym, people don't want to be around me, right? Because it affects them that much. Now, I'm not quite that way. But my wife will tell me days when I'm tired, she's like, why don't you just skip the gym? It's like, I can't, right? Because it's part of who I am. It's part of what I got to do. And it's the same thing with going to work, right? I want guys to show up on time every day at work. That's the first thing. I haven't been late. I don't know when the last time I was late for work, right? I just don't let it happen. And that's what I expect from everybody, right? There's no reason to be late for work, right? Get up whenever you have to. I don't care. Well, there was traffic. There's traffic every day. There's traffic for me. I'm not late. So we had a guy who was really good at his job, and we ended up letting him go because he couldn't get to work on time. I mean, I've never had to let someone go who was good at their job, but it was just unfair to everybody else that was there on time. So, and I tried everything I could to get this guy to be there on time, including calling him and waking up every morning. Because I'm like, look, I'm up every day anyway. I'm going to the gym. I'll call you. And one day, no call, no show. So, and you had mentioned earlier about if you're putting more effort than the other person, it's a problem, right? So he said, look, I've been on time for the last 3 weeks. I said, yeah, but I was calling you every day for 3 weeks. Who put in more effort to be here on time? You or me, right? So, And I did that because as a leader, I had to do whatever I needed to do to help the guy get to work on time, right? And kind of people looked at me funny, like, really, you're calling this guy every morning you wake up? Look, if that's what it takes, if someone's not good at their job because they don't know how to do something, what do? You teach them how to do it. Well, if somebody's only problem with work is not getting there on time, help them get there on time. So I did what I could. Ultimately, again, it wasn't enough. So that was when I talk about being frustrated because you can't get through. That was one where I tried everything. And still wasn't successful getting him to do the things he needed to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've got a few more years to work, and then maybe I don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't know, but it's really hard. Some people don't have people that they manage or that they deal with, right? So maybe they don't feel it, But in my position, I'm a manager, and so I have employees that I have to manage, and so I have to. And everybody's a little bit different, right? So I manage them all differently, and I can usually motivate all of them, but there's a few that I just cannot get to. So I don't know. I wish I could figure that out.
It's definitely tough. And for me, like my why, it's similar to you, right? Like you want to do all the things you want to do, and it goes deeper. It's my why is to do all those things, and I always say it comes back to the people in my life, the people that I care about the most, right? Like I want to do all the things I want to do with all the people that I care about, with my parents, my little sister, right? I also want to lead. The reason why I carry myself the way I do is to lead by example for people like my little sister, to make my parents proud, to show up for my girlfriend, like to do. I think a big thing that's missed is to do what you said you're gonna do, right? Like to be able to say you're gonna do something and do it. Like your word is bond, right? Whatever you want to, however you want to say that. Like a man is only as good as his word, right? Like that is kind of like a lost cause too.
Yeah, I think that saying doesn't have the same weight it used to have.
It doesn't. And so like fundamental things that have been said, I mean, when you're a little kid, you hear sayings like, if you believe you can achieve, and then you get older and you start to understand like these little cliche sayings are actually real, like and are actually really powerful. And when you're a little kid, you hear them, and then you go through high school, you're a teenager, you think you know it all. And it all just seems like super cliche. And then you start to really understand, again, you're educated on who you are, and you start to be more aware of the things you're thinking about and how that's affecting what you're doing in your life. And it's like, wow, these little sayings when I was a little kid are actually really powerful and impactful and actually should be applied. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's just like a lost art is what it really, and also when I'm thinking about others that maybe are like lacking, and I always say this, and I say this to some of my friends, and it's no knock to anybody, but right, for there to be winners, there has to be losers, right? So like, not everybody can just be successful. Not everybody can win. That's not how I guess life works, right? And that's something my dad always told me. But also, like, I never understand, like I said earlier, like listening is a skill. Like, who have these people ever listened to? Like, who has ever taught them anything in any type of digestible way, and they applied it and it was successful? So like, they had a teacher, it taught them something, they applied it, and it worked. So then you get confidence, like, oh, if I listen, I should be successful, right? It'll work. Then you do it again, you get more confidence. Then you have like what I said earlier, like supreme confidence, right? But if you were being directed or you were listening to the wrong people and you didn't know, like maybe these were your parents and they're trying their hardest and they were teaching you the wrong things and you were getting bad results. So then you're kind of taught not to listen, right? So then that's kind of a thing too. I don't know. And so like I've been fortunate in the case where, like you said, like I've had great mentors and great parents and great coaches in my life that I've been able to latch onto, listen, and get some type of result that was successful and be able to build that confidence. And even at a young age, like that's inherently like built into me, right? So I know that's not the same for everybody. And I know, and I can't really explain, like I just got lucky in that sense.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And thank God, right? I've had all of those people. Like I would be nothing with all of those people. And that's, again, that comes down to my why. Like I do it to make all of those coaches, those mentors, those people proud, and like take advantage of everything that I've learned, all the information that I've gotten. Like in my opinion, it would be like, one, disrespectful and somewhat like a disservice to not apply and take what all of these people have poured into me and do something with it. Right. And so that's not, I can't say that's a normal view for everybody.
I don't think it is. And I agree with you. I think I'm lucky too. The way I was raised, my parents divorced when I was young, only child. So I didn't really have my dad wasn't really in the picture a whole lot. I listened to my grandfather. I saw the respect that he got from the people in my small community where I grew up. And I guess I didn't want to disappoint him, and being an only child and being raised by my mom, I didn't want to disappoint her, right? I had disappointed her on several occasions, right? And I felt horrible about it. And so I learned early on not to do those things that might disappoint my mother, right? So over the years, I just learned I don't want to disappoint anybody, especially myself, right? So that's why you go to the gym every day. That's why you go to work every day. That's why you work hard, just not to disappoint the people in your life, including yourself, right? Because I hate being disappointed. Yes. So, and that's part of my why too.
And it's a big thing to keep the promises you make to yourself, right? Like when I say do what you said you were going to do, or do what you told yourself you were going to do, right? And similar to you, right? Like my grandfather passed away when I was 15. And so like I didn't have this type of level of a conversation with my grandfather ever.
Right.
Like I didn't get the chance. I was a teenager. I just got it. I could just barely drive. I think he took me in his pickup truck to drive one time before he ever like passed away. And so there's a lot of experiences that I wish that like I could have had with him, right? And he was a retired veteran, and like ever since I knew him, him and my grandmother were retired. I'm from Oregon. They live on like a nice plot of land, and I'm always at my grandfather's house. And like I spent a lot of weekends with him. And like now that I'm older, I can reflect, and I still learn from all of those times. Like more so than learning when I was like 10 years old in the yard with my grandfather, right? But we would wake up, we'd all have breakfast together, like 7 a.m., right? I would always eat like Eggo waffles, and then my grandpa and I, we had tasks. Right. We would go out, we'd do whatever we were doing in the yard. Their land is on an old tree nursery, so there's apple trees, raspberry bushes, blueberry bushes, grapevines. There's like redwood trees, right? Maybe we have a burn pile that day, whatever that looks like, right? We're going out, we're doing our task. Depending on how old I was, he's giving me a task that fits my level. And, as I get older, I can do some more. I'm stronger now. I can do more things. I can help him in different ways. And then my grandmother, she rings the bell. It's lunchtime. She rings the bell. We're in the back acre, right? So she's ringing the bell. We hear the bell. I'm like, Grandpa, it's time to go. It's lunchtime, right? So we come in. We all eat lunch together. We're dirty, right? We wash our hands. We go out. We finish whatever task. And it wasn't this daunting, like, we have to finish this task. It was like, we're finishing as much as we can. And if we didn't finish it, then we'll get back to it tomorrow. We're working hard as we can to try and finish whatever we set out to do, right? And the goal is to try and finish it. And it wasn't like, oh, we're upset we didn't finish, but it is also like exciting, like we did finish, right? And then we finish up the day, we clean up all the tools, whatever we used, we put it back where it was supposed to go. and we go inside, we have dinner, and we relax for the night. And that was every single day that we were, and maybe we weren't in the yard, maybe we did an activity, but it was very structured. And that's like something that's like always carried on through my life. And
that
that
sounds like a good childhood.
Yeah. And that's an example. Again, I was lucky.
Yeah.
That's not me. That's not anything I did. I was just like, so my grandparents, they adopted my mother from Korea. So, I'm just lucky. And like, so like I can't, this is like, isn't even really my fault. Like, just thank God. Right. But again, all I can do is just like take what I got and learn from it. And everybody has different circumstances that they just need to be able to learn from in order to move on and move forward with their life. And a lot of stuff it's not in your control. It's not even your fault, but what is your fault is what you do with that, right?
So I don't call them tasks, I call them chores. And I have chores every weekend, right? So my wife asked me Friday night, like, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, here's my list of chores I got to get done, right? And I think it through. I've developed a plan. I get up in the morning and I execute. I go do all my chores. And when I'm done with them, I come home and I relax, right? And so getting those things done and doing it and being productive, it feels great. If I don't have a plan, for my list of chores that I got to get done, because there's always things to do, right? It can mess up my whole day. It can mess up a whole weekend if I don't have that list of things, right? So your grandfather had his list of tasks that you had to do, right? Because that's what drove him. That's what kind of gave him his direction. Same thing for me, right? Is I have my plan, I have my chores, I get them done. I had things I had to do today before I met here with you, right? So got up early, got them done, come here, do this with you, and then I'm going to go home and, enjoy the rest of my day.
Right.
So, yeah, I think I think that's really important for people to have those things to do, whether it's getting them going to work, whether it's on a weekend doing your tasks or chores or doing whatever, but just being focused on what you have to do and then getting it done.
Yeah.
So I like the story about, being on your grandfather's property, right? That sounds, like that's what every kid should have at some point in their life. Most don't, so you are fortunate, right? My grandfather didn't have a plot of land, but he worked hard, and I enjoyed talking with him. He passed away when I was older than 15, but I was old enough right before he died that we had some conversations about what me and my best friend were doing at the time, and he kind of told us some stories, and it was like, wow, Grandpa's really kind of a cool guy, where I didn't think about that when I was younger. So I think back, like you said, you're still living your life based on some things that you learned from your grandpa. Same thing for me, right? Those things that I learned, shortly before he passed, I think about those a lot. And so I wish I could go back in time, right? I wish I knew now what I wanted to talk to him about, right? Because it'd be a different conversation than when I was 19 years old, Yeah. So.
Yeah, I totally feel that it made a big impact on my life for sure. And so you beat cancer. That's why we're here. That's really why we're here. Explain kind of a little bit about your cancer experience and what it took to overcome that.
So I'll just start from the beginning, right? So I was in the shower one day and I noticed right next to my asshole, I felt like this patch of rough skin. So I didn't think anything of it at first, but then I, checked it, and it's still there. It's not doing anything. It doesn't itch. It doesn't hurt. Nothing's going on. I got some like rash ointment at the drugstore and stuff and tried putting that on it, and it just wasn't going away. And so I'm a believer in being proactive when it comes to your health and stuff and not just letting things go. Now, it was an embarrassing thing to experience and to deal with and to talk about, but I had a visit with my primary care coming up. And so I said, well, I wrote on my list of things to talk to the doc about. Looking back, I had a doctor, same primary care guy for like 20 years. And this was the first time I'm seeing this new guy, right? Insurance changed, so I'm seeing a brand new physician. So my first visit to him, I said, hey, doc, I know that we just met, but I need you to take a look at something for me, right? So he took a look and he's like, I don't know. I'm not sure, what I'm looking at. I'm going to send you to a dermatologist and have them take a look. So I went to a dermatologist the following week. I didn't tell my wife about this because I didn't want her worrying about it. I'm like, let me find out what's going on. It's probably nothing. So I went to the dermatologist and they did a biopsy. And about 4 or 5 days after the biopsy, I got a phone call from them saying it was squamous cell cancer. So they set me up with an appointment at UNLV Medical Center to go see a colorectal surgeon. So I met with him, and that's when it kind of really got real and got scary because he started telling me all kinds of things about, major surgery and colostomy bag and, all kinds of things like this. And so now I'm freaking out a little bit. And then he put me in touch with an oncologist as well. So that's when I talked to my wife. It's like, hey, look, this is what's going on, and I have to go see an oncologist. So the surgeon talked about surgery, and when I saw the oncologist, my wife came with me, and the oncologist says, look, we try not to cut down there, right? We treat it with radiation, chemotherapy, and not cut down there, right? So that's what we were looking at. We were looking at chemotherapy and radiation, and I made an appointment with the radiation oncologist, right? The guy that would be doing that. And when I met with him, he told me about what it would be like, and it was going to be, he's like, you're going to hate me, right? Because what we have to do for this, right? And I mentioned to him that the surgeon had talked about possibly being able to surgically remove it. And so he said, look, if that's a possibility, that's what you should do. So I talked to my oncologist, and he actually got on the phone with the surgeon. And the surgeon kind of reassured him, said, yeah, I think I can go in there and excise this thing completely. So the oncologist kind of changed his viewpoint about cutting down there, and we made this decision to do that, right? So made the appointment to get that done. Doc went in. He said I would miss a few days of work, and I was out for a little more than a few days. I said, Doc, you said I was going to be gone for a couple of days. He said, well, once I got in there, I had to do a little more than I thought, right, to get this cleared. And all along, the doc kept telling me, I guess he told me all these horror stories about how this cancer can grow, and once it gets inside of you, all bets are off, right? Then it's this major surgery. So long story short, we get the results back from a biopsy to find out if it's got clear margins, meaning that there's good skin cell all around the part that the doctor cut out, and there was, right? So meaning to say the entire cancer was surgically removed, right? Everything left was good, clean skin. So we got those results back, and the doctor said, I remember him telling me, he goes, man, you dodged a bullet, right? Because a lot of people ignore that, right? They ignore it thinking, well, it's hemorrhoids or it'll go away, or they're too embarrassed or whatever the case may be why they don't want to go get it checked out, right? He says, you dodged a bullet. Every time I've seen him, that was 6 years ago, my surgery. And every time I see him, he tells me the same thing. Man, you dodged a bullet, because he's done lots and lots and lots of surgeries for the same exact thing, but I caught mine early enough, right? So I kept seeing my oncologist. We did a PET scan, my whole body just to making sure everything is good. There's a couple of spots on my lungs, and the doctor said, you grew up in the Midwest, right? I said, yeah. What does that have to do with having, a couple spots on my lungs? He said, a lot of people from the Midwest, because of the air quality and the things in the air there, have that. So those were not an issue. Had PET scan, for the next 3 or 4 years. Everything's clear. Just saw the surgeon a few months ago. I was due for a colonoscopy, so I had that done. And of course, the doc at that point told me again, said, "Man, you dodged a bullet." He had a couple of interns from the medical center at UNLV, and he explained this story to them, right? And so it kind of hit home again how lucky I was, right? My mother passed of cancer, so when this happened, I started thinking the worst, right? But I changed my diet. I started eating better. I went and saw the doctor, follow-ups and everything, and knock wood. People when they say they're in remission. That means different things for different types of cancers, right? Now, when I talk to Doc about it, he says the likelihood of this coming back is very, very slim, right? It's not that type of cancer. So I feel blessed, right? I feel fortunate, lucky, all those things to describe what I went through. But it was scary too, right? Because I dealt with it with my mother. Everybody has gone through something with cancer, whether it's a family member or friend or themselves, right? So you know how devastating it can be. So, yeah, you and I started talking about it at the gym, right? Because you went through your cancer's experience as well. And so that's what prompted this discussion, right? Is how I knew there was something not quite right, and I didn't want to ignore it. Right. And so I had the doc look at it, and because of that, I'm sitting here in front of you today with a clean outlook. So
right, and that's important, right? As men, it's always kind of like, oh, I'll just get better. I'll just tough it out. I'm this masculine guy, right? I'm a man's man. You know what I'm saying? And it's not unmanly to go to the doctor and get checked out.
Right.
Right? Like that's actually probably more manly and smarter than not going. And so this is definitely you are an example and a testament of why it's important to get checked up and just like ask questions and understand what's going on, because like your doctor kept telling you dodged a bullet. And you said squamous sarcoma is
squamous cell carcinoma.
Carcinoma, right? And so it's interesting. And I've had a bunch of stories of people with different type of cancers and it's all treated differently. Every case is different, right? And the consensus is like it's good to catch it early, which is definitely clear here. And I've had, I did an episode with a guest of mine, Ashley, and she had this crazy, I want to say it was a carcinoma or a sarcoma. It was a type of cancer, and she had done all these treatments, and it didn't work, and they wanted to amputate her arm. And then she somehow had found a doctor that was confident that they could do the procedure and basically saved her life. And she got a surgery, and she's been in remission ever since. And then I listened to your story. It's like, well, that was kind of what the oncologist was suggesting, to start with the cancer, the chemo and the radiation. And then if that didn't work, it sounds like it could have gotten to a worse place. And then that surgery might have been a tougher surgery that you got, and you, so it was like you kind of got to that surgeon beforehand and was able to get that dealt with. And so it's very interesting. Again, like we were speaking earlier, we have all of this research, we have all of this information. They don't tell you why you got cancer.
No.
They don't tell you why. And it's hard even now, after we've beaten cancer, to understand maybe what we should do to prevent it from ever coming back, other than knock on wood.
Right.
And so that's always an interesting take, again, in a world full of all the information, all the technology, all the resources, billions of dollars now in research and everything like that. And there's still a lot of answers that are either not clear or are not disclosed.
Right.
And so that's always an interesting to me. And, like you said, like you've changed your diet. And I know you have, like, kind of speak to me a little bit about that being, right? Like I've seen you in pictures. You showed me that picture with Arnold, and you're extremely strong. Like you've not only gone through an adjustment, just health-wise, to overcome and try and prevent cancer and try and live a healthy life in that sense, but also as just being and trying to get as strong as you can and be as big and as built as you can in the gym. Like, what has your diet been? How has your diet maybe changed? What does that look like? Because in my mind, like that's one of the only things that we can control.
Right.
in our lives. We also live in America, so it's somewhat controlled by other factors, opposed to like maybe other countries. But I've met with a bunch of dietitians before, and it's always the same consensus: like just have a complete healthy diet.
Balanced,
It's not a
nutritious.
balance.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what they always tell me. Just have a balanced diet. There's no like real type of direction. Like even earlier we were talking how you had met with the nutritionist at UNLV talking about an Atkins diet. So speak a little bit on your diet.
So my best friend growing up, he's been my best friend since we were born a couple months apart. And he's been my best friend ever since. So, 61 years, we've been very, very close. So he was always a big guy. When we were 40 years old, he was over 400 pounds. And we had talked a couple times, but it was always uncomfortable. And he'd say, hey, look, dude, you got to really start thinking about trying to cut some of this weight. Well, he decided to do just that, right? No surgery, no nothing. He just, put an app on his phone to count calories, started walking every day. And by the time he turned 50, so, right, he started this when he was in his early 40s, I think. But on his 50th birthday, he was under 200. Wow. So he had lost 200 and some pounds. Well, along that journey, he came out here one time, and he had lost weight, and we were really supportive of him and proud of him. And he goes, yeah, the next time you see me, I'm going to weigh less than you. And I'm like, okay, I don't mind if he weighs less than me, but I was kind of out of shape and heavier than I should be. So I'm like, I don't want to, I'm okay with him being lighter than me, but I don't want to be fat and have him be lighter than me. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop drinking during the week. Because I used to drink, not every day. It wasn't like I was an alcoholic, but I'd come home from work and have a couple drinks, and that adds up, right? So I just said, screw that. No more drinking during the week at all. And that was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And so I rarely make exceptions to that rule, but I do not drink during the week. Like no school nights. And I started to lose weight. And so when he came out, he saw me, he goes, how much you weigh? And I think he was down, I think he had gotten down to like 260 at that time from 430, whatever he was. I said, I weighed in at 240 this morning. He's like, you're an asshole, right? But it was my motivation, right? So that became a thing for me to do, not drink during the week. I'm really fortunate that if I say I'm not going to drink, or if I say I'm going to go work out every day, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, I guess there's so much guilt internally that if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, you touched on that earlier, right? Saying you're going to do something and following through and doing it, right? So it was easy for me to just not drink during the week because I said out loud I'm not going to do it, right? So the world heard me, and I wasn't going to go back on that. As I got older, we were just talking about this at work the other day. When I first moved to Las Vegas 30-some years ago, Subway had the 2 foot longs for $5 or whatever. I used to get 2 foot longs and eat them, right, by myself. And I was lean, but I worked my ass off at work, and I was active and stuff. And I can't do that these days, right? I get a 6-inch sub, and I'm good. So I think the thing for me, you touched on a balanced, nutritious diet, right? That's all you need to do. No fads, no BS, right? Just eat relatively clean. And for me, the biggest thing is portion control, right? My wife and I had pizza and wings last night, right? So, but I didn't gorge myself like I used to, right? I eat till I'm content, and then that's it. I look at the portions that restaurants serve, things like that, and it's outrageous, right? So just a healthy, nutritious diet, exercise, that's really all you have to do. It's no big complex algorithm on how to lose weight, right? Take in less calories than you're burning per day, and you'll lose weight, right? Balance the calorie intake with how much you expend every day. You're going to stay where you're at, right? I've been the same weight now, within 5 or 6 pounds, for about 4 years. And so as you get older, it gets more and more difficult to do that, right? So I guess that's something you had asked me about, accomplishments and things like that. I guess being my age right now and being able to stay fit and stay in decent shape, right, is really, really important to me, right? So it's a driver for me now, right? It's part of my motivation. So when I think about having one more slice of pizza, I'm like, nah, I really don't need that, right? Yeah. I'll feel better if I don't.
Right.
So
That's how I've been. So everybody knows this about me. I love food. Like, I absolutely love food. We live in Vegas. There's
Right.
a lot of good food out here. And I've always just eaten anything I want. I've always been extremely active. I'm also blessed with amazing genes. Like, my mom is like this little 5'2" lady, Asian lady. She probably eats more than me sometimes.
Right.
Right. And she's extremely healthy and fit, and you would never know that she could eat so much. Right. And so I always grew up like for us to finish our food. Right. Like, we didn't always, I wouldn't say we struggled, but like it was a blessing that we
You
had
didn't
food.
waste.
Yeah, it was a blessing when we didn't want to waste the food. Like, we should eat the food. Right. So I grew up that way. And as I got older and stronger and more active, right? Like, I think most of high school, I played a sport every season, right? Growing up, by the time I'm in third grade, I'm playing all sports. I'm playing basketball, football, and soccer in the same
And getting
season.
yelled at.
Baseball, getting yelled out by my coaches, right? And running track, right? Like, and even when I was a little kid, like I know my parents would always tell me, like, man, you just like to run. Like, you would just get out and at the park and you just wanted to run, right? And I vividly remember being a little kid in like preschool or like elementary school and loving recess and just wanting to get out there and just run, right? And I've been I think diagnosed ADHD or whatever, and I'm in the gym at 5 a.m. Like, I gotta move. I gotta get some movement in. Like, I got it at this point, like you said, it's just a habit. And so diet was never a thing to me. Diet was never, I could eat whatever I want. I'll go eat Taco Bell and go play basketball for hours. I'm fine, And then I got cancer. And then, so like I said, one of the biggest things that I would imagine I could control to try and help not only beat this, but prevent this from coming back or prevent this from ever happening is control my diet. And I've never gotten, even to this day, very clear answers. It's always like a balanced diet. And that's kind of the consensus, right? I've heard, make sure that your caloric intake is matching, right? Like how many calories you're burning. And like, I've never had a problem of being like overweight or anything like that. And so, yeah, it's always been a little bit confusing with me. And so my progression has been like, I'm gonna go over this and then I have one more question for you and then we'll get done. My basic understanding, like, and progression has been like, well, I stopped eating sugars, as much sugar as I can. Not like natural sugars, like in fruits or when I'm reading a label and it says natural sugars, right? Added sugars, like the sugar that I don't need. And so that I can't say that's even helped or hasn't helped, honestly. I just know that it's definitely healthy. I've never drank coffee in my life. So since I was younger, I was always an athlete. I believed in like always being hydrated. So I tried to stay away from like sugary drinks, like juices and sodas. Like, that was a part of an instruction by my mentors that were giving me understandings on how to perform at our best ability and understanding like part of, like, we were always taught like 80% of everything that we're doing is not just physical and skills and reps and the plays and what you're doing, but it's also mental, right? And part of that mental piece is taking care of your body and being prepared in order to put your body through a tournament of 10 games or whatever that looks like in 2 days, right? So that was always normal for me to hydrate. And then I got cancer, so I was doing chemo treatment, so hydration was a big thing and it was normal for me. And then once I had beaten cancer, I beat cancer the first time and it was kind of still not clear to me. I was still like, I beat cancer, like it's all good. I kind of reverted back still. Then I got cancer again. And it's like, okay, this is like a wake up. Like, I can't get cancer a third time. Like, what? Like, I got lucky 2 times, kind of, right? Like, this is a miracle. I beat cancer. Not everybody beats cancer. I have got to do everything in my control and all the little things, right, in order to like believe and feel confident that like this is not gonna, because a lot of it again is a mental piece and what you believe,
Right.
and whatever that is for you, right? And so I stopped eating out as much. I've been doing a lot more portion control because I can eat forever. If I, especially even now, I'm a little older. I'm like 31. I can sit down somewhere. I can just slow down and just keep eating. And I love food. Like I love it. Like out here in Vegas, we go to this Korean barbecue spot. It's all you can eat. It's called Koji. It's ribeyes and tomahawks, and you just order until you can't eat anymore. And I'm that person that everybody's full, and I order another round for myself, you know. And so I've gotten out of the habit of overeating, and just kind of like eating till like I've gotten enough. I don't need to eat anymore. It's not like
Right.
it's not that big of a deal, right? And so those have been the biggest changes for me. And then it was funny, like most recently, I thought I had controlled my diet the most. I started eating like mostly like fruits and vegetables, and just like my main carb was just rice, and mixing that with like some type of protein, whether that was fish or just chicken or steak or whatever that was. And then I went to the doctor, and they were like, what is going on with your kidney levels? Mm-hmm. What is going on with your kidney levels? This is more elevated than your baseline, or what we've even seen sometimes while you've been going through treatments. What is going on here? And I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, I'm actually controlling my diet now, and there's something wrong with my filtration levels in my body. And they and both my primary care doctor and my oncologist thought that maybe I'm just eating too much protein.
Oh.
And in a million years, again, this is like an uneducation, like I'm uneducated on who I am and how my body works. Never in a million years realized that I could eat too much protein. Or right, I also was like taking creatine to help my body recover, or have, right, like I was never aware of that. And so those have been changes that I've made with my diet. It's not perfect. I don't think everybody ever gets it perfect.
And you wouldn't have known that if you hadn't had your blood work done and everything checked out, right?
Exactly.
So that's another good reason for people to go see their doc, you know, regular basis. I have friends that are my age that don't go see the doctor, you know. I haven't seen them in years.
Yeah.
I go every 6 months, right?
And you have no idea what is going on in your body. Because like like you said, like you had some type of symptoms, but they weren't like crazy symptoms like I'm about to die, right? Same with me. When I had like low level symptoms. I had a lump in my neck. I thought it was just a knot in my neck. I needed to go to the chiropractor and get rubbed out. I was 19 at the time, so I had very high level of energy and was working out all the time. No way do I have cancer, you know? And yeah, so to your point, to always definitely get checked up is extremely important, so that you're aware of what is going on. Because not everything is, I mean, it's like your car. You get your car serviced, right? Whenever it says to get serviced. It's not because your car is broken. Right. It's because your car needs maintenance. And if you don't go and take your car to get maintenance, then over time, that's going to lead to something. And then your car breaks. And then now you got to get a new car.
Yep.
You only have one body. You can't get a new body, you know? So last question before we get out of here. What is the best advice that you've ever gotten from somebody in your life?
Boy, that's a good one. Best advice. You know, I've gotten lots and lots of good advice throughout the years. I don't know there's anything that particularly stands out in my mind about. I guess it goes back to my buddy who worked at the bank and told me about saving money. And it was a point in my life where, you know, I wasn't making the kind of money where I felt like I could save money, right? It's like, look, I live paycheck to paycheck and I don't have any extra to save. But he said, look, do these things, right? And it set in play kind of my financial planning and future from that point forward. So I think that's probably the most important piece of advice I ever got, because it changed my whole outlook on finance and everything else, right? So I started saving when I was pretty young. My credit score was horrible. I started working on that. So, and as you get older, and I'm sure having a good credit score is a really critical, thing to be successful in life, in everything, from car insurance to mortgage to whatever, right? You got to work on that. And so he helped me do that. In fact, just a few months ago, I sent him a text thanking him, saying, look, I wouldn't be in the financial position I am today, hoping to retire in 4 years or so, if he hadn't given me that piece of advice. So that kind of set in play, hopefully, my dreams coming true and being able to retire one day and go enjoy retirement, right? I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. And right, a lot of people would say like money isn't everything. And I'm not here to tell you money is everything, but it is the tool and the currency of life that we live in order to do the things that we want in life. And it's extremely important to be financially educated. And like you said, credit score, I'm buying a house right now.
Oh.
I'm buying a house right now. I just bought a house. We have a new build in Inspirada, and
nice.
We're purchasing a home. My credit score is honestly trash. It's not like horrible, like we got approved for a loan and everything, but it's not like where we would have wanted to be.
Right.
And just quick before we get out of here, like I was like my whole life really uneducated on credit. I was always advised to not get a credit card. I probably didn't. I'm 31 now. I didn't have a credit card till I was 28. I don't think. I always just had a debit card, use cash. And so like I have no debt.
Right.
Right.
But
like,
you have no history.
I can save money. I'm responsible with money, but there's no history of that.
Right.
It's not shown anywhere. And so it just is funny. It just reminded me of how important credit is.
You could have used that advice back then too.
I could have used it a lot. and it doesn't matter. And I have a very clear understanding since I've went under my first underwriting process of buying a home. And it's exciting. And it's not the worst thing in the world. I've worked really hard to get to where I'm at and do what I can to afford my home. And I'm super excited. I'm super grateful to be in the place that I'm at. But yes, 100% financial education is extremely important. And again, that just goes back to being educated and, being able to listen to, that's like the theme of this whole conversation, being able to listen to people with sound advice and being open-minded and understanding you don't know what you don't know, right? And overcoming and kind of fast-tracking your life. And like you said, now you're in a position where you'll be able to retire. I know not everybody can say that, right? And
I'd knock wood again. We're set right now, but things could change,
Yes.
But we're working real hard to get there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Dana. I really appreciate you coming in and sharing all this and sharing your story with me. This was amazing. I hope you guys all got something from this. Before I get out of here, make sure to follow the podcast at BeastvsZombie on platforms, BeastvsZombie.com. You can get merchandise. All proceeds, 10% of proceeds go to cancer research and cancer awareness. So go check that out. It's good style for a good cause. Have a good rest of your day, you guys. Be a beast.